Friday, March 5. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gayle. The government has given further details on the administration of the first phase of COVID-19 vaccination in Jamaica. In a release on Friday, the Health Ministry advised that the priority demographic group to be vaccinated is the frontline medical and health personnel who are at the highest risk of exposure. That group is an estimated 16,000. This process will begin after the arrival of vaccines in Jamaica later in the month and after the vaccination of medical and health personnel would have already begun. Members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica Defense Force, along with persons in the 60 and older age group will gain access to vaccines. This will account for the supplies projected to be received in March. In April, as additional stocks arrive, vaccination of the 60 and older age group will continue, with the addition of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Department of Correctional Services, Jamaica Customs Agency and Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, and workers in educational institutions at the early childhood, primary and secondary levels. The government has also included a category of public sector workers who interface directly with the public in the course of service delivery. These include our cashiers, customer service agents, transport inspectors, JUTC bus drivers and conductors, case officers, and other such personnel. This group is approximately 5,000 persons. Government officials, to include members of Parliament, the judiciary, parish councillors, senior civil servants, and senior technical officers numbering 599 persons, will gain access to vaccines after the priority groups listed above. Persons in this group who are aged 60 and older with comorbidities may seek to get vaccinated with the general pool of 60 and older. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has published a detailed vaccination program schedule, which is available at their website, www.moh.gov.jm/vaxplan. Here now is the latest COVID-19 clinical management summary.
In the clinical summary for Thursday, March 4, 332 new COVID-19 cases and 7 new deaths were reported. The death toll from the virus now stands at 443. The island's health authorities are now contending with 10,092 active cases out of an overall tally of 24,776. In the parish breakdown, 126 cases were reported in Kingston and St. Andrew, 70 in St. Catherine and 45 in St. James. There were 23 in St. Anne, 17 in both St. Elizabeth and Manchester, and 14 in Clarendon. 6 positives were reported in Hanover, 5 in Portland, while St. Thomas and Trelawney both reported 3 cases. 2 cases were also detected in St. Mary and 1 in Westmoreland. In the meantime, 143 recoveries were reported, pushing the complete number to 14,012. The number of hospitalizations at this time is 270. 27 patients are displaying moderate symptoms, while 23 are critical. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
The government is not relenting on its 2-week ban on funerals. The ban was announced last Sunday as part of restricted measures under the Disaster Risk Management Act to fight the current COVID-19 spike. Speaking at Thursday's meeting of the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament, where allocations for the 2021-2022 budget are being perused, local government minister Desmond McKenzie said the funeral prohibition is non-negotiable.
We met with the undertakers this week. They put some suggestions on the table for us to consider, for the government to consider. Those will be taken back to the cabinet for the cabinet's consideration. While we appreciate that, and it is also the wrong signal that was sent yesterday, when over 200 and odd persons congregated at a funeral establishment to participate in a wake. although that there's a ban. So what it is telling you, member, is that there is a kind of scant, disregard for the process. And you cannot be encouraging when actions like those, because if a government bows to that kind of pressure, the government is going to lose its legitimacy. And the government cannot afford under these circumstances. So we will look at what has been put on the table and take it under consideration.
And the minister reiterated the need for the public to adhere to the restrictions. The National Works Agency, NWA, is working to prevent flooding, which usually occurs at Big Pond in the surrounding areas of St. Catherine. After recent rainfall, management of the Communication and Customer Services at the NWA, Stephen Shaw, says the NWA has conducted drainage improvement activities in the area. He says teams are working on removal of debris and soil buildup in order to restore the drain to efficient free-flow conditions. The project is being implemented at a cost of $21 million. The Heart Foundation says Jamaicans have a right to see nutritional information on the front of food packages. That's the thesis of its latest public education campaign, dubbed the Right to Know Jamaica campaign. The campaign, which was virtually launched this week, seeks to build awareness about the harms of consuming unhealthy food and the introduction of package warning labels. Executive Director of the Heart Foundation, Mrs. Deborah Chen, says Jamaica is facing an epidemic of NCDs, non-communicable diseases. She says 70% of all deaths in Jamaica are caused by NCDs.
Overweight and obesity are now dramatically on the rise in Jamaica. 1 in 2 Jamaicans, 54%, are overweight or obese. More concerning is that between 2010 and 17, obesity among Jamaican children, 13 to 15, increased by 68%.
Mrs. Chen says NCDs continue to place a burden on the country's health system, the economy, and individuals' finances.
We have to halt and increase these and reverse these worrying trends. To improve diet and health, leading organizations like the World Health Organization recommend reduction in the consumption of energy-dense, micronutrient-poor foods as a critical measure to tackle the growing obesity epidemic.
According to the foundation executive, processed food often has added sugar, sodium, and saturated fat. She notes research that shows simple front-of-package warning labels that identify unhealthy products have been shown to be effective in discouraging unhealthy food choices.
Consumers should be able to tell by quickly looking at a label which products are high in salt, fat, and sugar. Our campaign is built around the assertion that we all have the right to know what's in our food. Consumers have the right to information and a right to safe, nutritious food. Rights which have all been reiterated at the highest levels of the United Nations. A recent public opinion poll showed that 92% of Jamaicans support front-of-pack labels on food and drinks as part of the government's plan to promote a healthier diet in Jamaica.
Mrs. Chen says the campaign is supported by the Pan American Health Organization, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and other leading health and wellness groups. The public is being advised that the St. James Parish Court will be open today, March 5. The court offices were closed on Thursday to facilitate deep cleaning of the building after a member of staff tested positive for the coronavirus COVID-19. Persons with matters before the court who may be affected by the closure are being asked to contact 876-579-5337 or call toll-free at 1-888-429-5269 or email them at customerservice@cad.gov.jm. The judiciary is appealing to members of the public to abide by the health protocols outlined by the Ministry of Health and Wellness and to practice proper hygiene. In today's extended edition of the Business Report, global oil prices are on the rise. Financial coach Denise Williams speaks about work practices, and we continue to look at Tax Administration of Jamaica, TAJ, and how they navigate service delivery in the time of a pandemic. Gabriel Thompson has all this and more.
The government's mandated work-from-home order under the Disaster Risk Management Act took effect Thursday, March 4, and will continue until March 22. Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ is advising that all tax offices and the Stamp Duty and Transfer Tax Office will continue to operate during the period. The administration says based on critical services that cannot be provided remotely, frontline staff, supervisors and support teams will continue to provide face-to-face and on-site service to customers. In a release, the entity said other areas considered non-critical for face-to-face operations, such as the TAJ Customer Care Center, will continue to operate remotely and within the established work-from-home protocols. Additionally, as the island enters the peak of the tax season and in anticipation of the additional demand on its services, TAJ has decided to temporarily operate the St. Andrew, Montego Bay and Mandeville Revenue Service Centers, as well as the St. Anne's Bay, Savannah Lamar tax offices on Saturdays beginning March 13 through to April 24. These will be in addition to the Portmore tax office, which has resumed opening on Saturdays. Customers are asked to follow instructions given at the locations and urged to be mindful that TAJ will be operating with a reduced number of personnel as rotation of staff will continue. For further information, persons may contact the administration's Customer Care Center at 888-829-4357 toll-free or visit the website at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 1,317 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 86 stocks, of which 41 advanced, 30 declined, and 15 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 14 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Students Living Jamaica, 1834 Investments Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company, Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share, and Express Catering Limited. Derrimon Trading Company Limited was the volume leader with 5.3 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 3.2 million units, and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 2.8 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Thursday, March 4 ended trading at $149.96. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $118.75. The pound sterling traded for $209.06, and the euro ended trading at $186.14. Oil prices jumped more than 2% on Friday, hitting their highest in nearly 14 months after OPEC and its allies agreed not to increase supply in April as they await a more substantial recovery in demand. Brent crude futures added $1.75 to $68.49 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed $1.49 to $65.32 a barrel. Both contracts surged more than 4% on Friday after the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Companies and Allies, together known as OPEC Plus, extended oil output curbs into April, granting small exemptions to Russia and Kazakhstan. Investors were surprised that Saudi Arabia had decided to maintain its voluntary cut of 1 million barrels per day through April, even after the oil price rally of the past 2 months on the back of COVID-19 vaccination programs around the globe. Are you invisible at work? It could cost you millions. Financial coach Denise Williams of Financially Focused says if you are not building a case for promotions or salary increases or not demanding better service from your financial advisor, you are losing millions of dollars. She says you are wealthier than you think.
You have a scenario where someone will say to you, oh my God, I have 10, 15, 20 years experience on the job, but I get passed over for promotions. Younger people come to the office and they earn more than me, or they're moved up the career track much faster than me. And that's a source of really, really terrible stress. So what I have found is when someone is really struggling to be at the forefront of the human resource manager, HR's mind, in terms of promotion or, salary increases or just general upward movement, they're also having that same relationship with their financial advisor, banker, accountant, tax professional, you name it. Anyone that is supposed to help them with money is not. So they're being overlooked at work and overlooked in the world of investments and money management. And guess what? Over the course of your working life, this will cost you millions. No question about it. You're being overlooked at work. You're not increasing your earnings. You're not increasing the value of your human capital, and your career portfolio is not going where it should go. And so, definitely want you to not have this experience. It's horrible. So what can we do for you? Well, what we have actually, which will more help you on the finance side, and the investment side, and it may spill over to your career. We have a free 21-day challenge to supercharge your investment returns. Because again, if you're being overlooked in your career, you're not getting the attention you deserve in your career. You're also probably not getting the attention you deserve from your banker or your financial advisor. We want to help you with that. So we have this free 21-day challenge. Just visit our website, www.financiallyfocusedmedia.com, and we can help you with this 21-day challenge to supercharge your investment returns. Now, let me declare upfront, I ain't talking about day trading or buying options or swing trading or any kind of financial engineering magic like that. No, what we're looking at are the steps you need to take to have a more wholesome, fulsome conversation with your financial professionals so that you stop leaving money on the table. We want you to be better, stronger, more able to negotiate what's yours. You invested your money, you put your money in this financial product. You deserve better. You should get a better return. Yeah, I think so. And in the 15 plus years that I've been in the financial world, I've just seen people pushed aside, and it's just wrong. So I want to help you to take 21 days and each day incrementally become better at how you engage with financial professionals.
For more information on the development of your financial future, head on over to financiallyfocusedmedia.com or find Denise on YouTube at Financially Focused. And on that note, we close this extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
We go now to news from the region, and we begin in Barbados. As a consequence of the current pandemic, the private sector in that country is expected to contract over the next 2 years or so. President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Trisha Tannis, is warning of bleak times ahead.
The private sector is expected to undergo significant restructuring and downsizing for at least the next 24 months, but it could last much longer depending on COVID-19. President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Tricia Tannis, tells Barbados Today that projections of modest growth may not be a true depiction of the reality on the ground. Coming out of last year's COVID-19 lockdown, economists predicted that it would take no less than 2 years for the business sector to recover. And while the BCCI has not fully assessed the long-term impact of the current shutdown, the preliminary outlook is bleak.
We're still looking pretty much at least another, 2-year time frame before we can begin to start to see genuine organic growth, and I emphasize that because what we're having is projections of a modest growth year on year, and of course, when you have a year like 2020 where there's a huge decline, anything registers as a growth. But what we really want to see is the economy return to pre-COVID-19 levels of buoyancy before we can really start talking about growth. What we can start talking about is recovery. We must not confuse recovery with growth necessarily in the same context, because if you have hit rock bottom, anything is growth. Yeah. So really and truly to have a meaningful conversation or dialogue, we really want to be talking about recovery to the point that we were before COVID, and certainly that's going to take at least another 24 months.
Tannis says not even the current reopening of some businesses could spare the country from private sector layoffs.
It means that companies are still going to be going through periods of restructuring, right-sizing, some, yes, downsizing. I believe that's going to continue. We saw that, and it started in a fairly significant way in 2020, but you are going to see that continuing and deepening as a result of this current lockdown, which would have dealt another blow to any business recovery efforts. Being second lockdown in less than a year, we all know why, we understand the context, but at the end of the day, the reality is, and the consequences, are also there as well.
Former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony urges officials to do a better job of convincing the general public of the importance of taking the vaccine. According to Dr. Anthony, not enough is being done to educate the public, which could lead to an increase in vaccine hesitancy. He spoke to HTS News Force after getting his first dose of the vaccine.
Former Prime Minister and Beaufort South MP Dr. Kenny Anthony spoke to News Force moments after he received his first AstraZeneca vaccine shot.
No, very, very simple. Hardly ever felt it.
The 5-term parliamentarian, who has represented the constituency of Beaufort South for 24 years, and led the country from 1997 to 2006 and again in 2011 to 2016, detailed his motivation to take the vaccine. The 70-year-old political giant was candid about his susceptibility to the virus.
I'm in the vulnerable category. I'm 70 now, so I'm within the category that is defined as vulnerable and susceptible, and people like me lead a very public life, so you have constant engagement with the public, and therefore it's essential that there be a degree of security.
Dr. Anthony believes vaccine hesitancy is detrimental to the current advocacy and education campaign aimed at persuading citizens to get the jab. He is calling on the medical fraternity to engage the public in a wide-ranging Q&A session on everything vaccine-related.
I think they're doing a bad job of communicating to the public. And there are a lot of issues with the number of vaccines we have, because even with the 20,000 vaccines, you're already talking about 10,000 persons. We have a population of 170,000. But I'm not aware of very serious discussion regarding the vaccines and dealing directly with the affairs of individuals and I think it'll be very helpful to have more programs by medical personnel, not by politicians, because many of the politicians are already discredited over this.
The ex-Prime Minister also weighed in on calls regarding an emphasis to be placed on vaccinating minibus operators.
There are persons in the community who interact with sizable numbers, like the bus drivers, and I think perhaps it's a good thing. It makes good sense to engage them, to allow them to have the vaccine ahead of others. I think a lot of people understand the need for prioritizing certain individuals and certain groups, quite apart from the traditional definition of persons on the priority list.
High on the priority list for the first phase of the vaccine program are the frontliners, deemed to be medical professionals, law enforcement officials, emergency responders, the elderly 65 years and older, immunocompromised individuals, and persons with pre-existing conditions. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
In sports, in 54 innings, Gayle had never batted 3 for West Indies in the 2020 International until Wednesday evening against Sri Lanka. It was an unsuccessful outing in the new position. But Captain Kieran Pollard expressed it's something they are exploring. Newsroom Guyana's Akeem Green provides the detail.
Gayle had previously spent all his international T20 career opening the batting for West Indies with good success. However, in the last edition of the Indian Premier League, his franchise, Kings Punjab 11, opted to bat him at 3. According to Pollard, apart from the absence of regular number 3, Shimon Hetmyer, they decided to experiment, given Gayle's wealth of experience.
Yeah, he did it. He did it in the IPL. He did it recently in the PSL, as well. So, there's something that we're going with. Sometimes you don't want to just be predictable all the time. And if you have a guy who can, change his game and maneuver different scenarios, and also clear the boundary at will, thinking down the road, it can be an option. Yes, Hetmyer is not there, as well, so he's filling in. But having a guy like Christopher Gayle with the most runs in T20 cricket going around the world, I don't think that's bad, for our team. We're not going to sit here and look at, just one game or one performance. We're going to give the guys every confidence each and every time. And I'm sure if he comes out in the next 2 games and he scores, runs consistently, it would have been a masterstroke by us to take up the opportunity that what we have seen. So let's see how that goes. But again, we're all confident in the guys that we have, and hopefully, a batting lineup can come together, and it won't be that heart-wrenching in chasing these small totals.
The captain also said that it's important to have consistency in selection and not constant changes.
In all honesty, if we're honest with ourselves, that's one of the problems that has plagued us over the years, the constant chopping and changing when things doesn't go right 1 or 2 games. We don't expect miracles from people. And, sometimes you have to give them chances and opportunities, to fulfill what you're trying to achieve. And after a period of time, then you can make a judgment call. So again, after 1 game, I don't think we're even thinking about many changes or anything like that. And we need to get away from the fact of, if a guy doesn't perform, or not exclusively using, Chris, for example, but any individual after 1 game or 2 games that he's just not good enough and you just try to discard them. If in life we are being discarded as individuals in our jobs after, 1 mishap or something like that, how would we feel? Sometimes you have to think about cricket as well from a life perspective. And I think that's the thing that we get away from. We look for results each and every time, and we don't think about the process. So the process sometimes is longer, and sometimes you take your chances and you see where it takes you. It's either it works or it doesn't work. But to think about even changing things, no chance.
Wednesday's match at Coolidge Cricket Ground, its first T20 International, was described by some as the more bizarre in the format. Akila Dananje took a hat-trick and then was struck for 6 sixes in 1 over by Pollard, while Wanindu Hasaranga was also on a hat-trick in West Indies' pursuit of 132 in 20 overs.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I think, as I said in the post-match ceremony as well, it was a great advertisement for cricket. You want wickets, you want sixes. So yeah, it was. It was topsy-turvy. That's how you want cricket games to go. You don't want one side totally dominating the other. So again, for us, we enjoy that. You enjoy those seat edge moments. And hopefully, if we have to chase a small total like that, we don't have that sort of heart scare. But when it comes to being West Indian and West Indies cricket, this has been synonymous with us. So hopefully we can change it. But if not, and we will come out on the victorious side more often than not, then we'll take the excitement.
The second T20 International is scheduled for Friday from 18 hours at Coolidge. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
With that, we bring an end to our newscast. Until next time, keep watching PBCJ. We are the People's Station.